Today we're going to talk about distance formula and midpoint formula. Okay, these are two formulas that will be given to you. All you have to do is plug them in. Okay, so Alma is going to walk through the park from point A to point B. What distance will she walk? How do we find this? Width times length. That's how you find the area of a square, right? Okay, but we're wanting to find the distance of this guy, right? I can't hear you because Michaela's talking about something that's not math related. What's up? Divide by 2. So find the area and then divide by 2. Okay. Well, that would find the area of this, right? Not necessarily the distance. What if we did a squared plus b squared equals c squared? Do y'all know what that's called? Have y'all seen that? Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so a is going to be the side, and b is going to be this side, and c is what we're trying to find, right? Okay, so let's try that. We got 200 squared plus 200 squared equals c squared. What's 200 squared? Okay, so we got 40,000 plus 40,000. So that's going to give me 80,000. And now we're trying to find c. So we're going to take the square root of 80,000. So we're going to go into Desmos. And we're going to do the square root of 80,000. And so that's going to give me 282.84 roughly. Do we remember seeing this before? Maybe. No, yes. Yeah. Okay. No. All right, on number 2, the distance across the park is 282.84. Alma walks at 5 feet per second. How long is it going to take her to walk across the park? So it takes her 5 feet per second. And we have a total of 282 feet. Take a second, think about that one, and submit your answer in there. Okay, Aiden, what'd you come up with? 56, how did you do that? Okay. Sebastian? Okay. And what'd you get? Okay. Because we know that they cover 5 feet per second. So if we are totally covering 282, then we would just divide it by 5, right? All right, cool. Now imagine you're on the beach and you're getting hungry. Use the sketch tool to show the route you would take to the taco truck. So here you are over here. How would you get to the taco truck? Right? You would say, boom, straight to it. Okay. So on slide 4, Daniel and I'm assuming that's Bo shows different routes to get to the taco truck. Who do you think was going to reach the taco truck first? The green one? Well, how would you know that? Okay, so Bo's going straight to it, and Daniel is like taking a longer route, right? It's going to take him a longer time. All right, on slide 5, their speed on the boardwalk is 5 feet per second. Their speed on the sand is 3 feet per second. Here's the dimensions shown. Determine the amount of time it's going to take for each person to get to the taco truck. Okay, so take a second, see if you can figure that one out. All right, so let's talk a little bit. So, Sebastian, you were talking about how we're trying to find the distance of this guy, right? And you said, well, am I going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? Well, we could use that in order to find this distance because they didn't tell us what that was, right? Okay, so if we do 489, gosh, can't talk today, squared, that's going to give me 239,121. And then if I take 327.6 and multiply it by itself, that's going to give me 107,321.76. I'm going to add those two things together. And that's going to give me 346,442.76. And then if I wanted to find the side, I would take the square root of that. And that would give me a roughly 588.59. Right? So that's this distance. Now, if I wanted to find Daniel's time, okay, Daniel is the purple guy. What would I do? He went this way and then he went this way. Say it again. What's up? Good. Yeah. For Bow's distance, because they didn't tell us what the distance was on this. So this is his distance. This is the amount of feet that he's covered. We haven't found his time yet. Good.
Would you divide each 100 for six and then that by 8, and then 489 divided by 5, and then add it?
Right. Okay, so we would do 327.6, and we're dividing it by 3 feet per second. And then we're going to add that to 489, and we're going to divide it by 5 because that's how fast he can go on the boardwalk. And then we're going to add those two things together. So when we do that, that's going to give us 109.2 plus 489 divided by 5, which is 97.8. So it would take us 207 seconds. How many minutes is that? How many minutes is that? How did we figure that out? Because we would divide by 60, right? Okay, you got to make sure on these kind of questions that you're paying attention to the units. So if they ask you for minutes versus seconds, this one, you're talking about seconds, but sometimes they might make you convert to minutes. Sebastian, what's up? We're not done with them yet.
Oh.
So we got this distance because we didn't know it at the beginning. Now, he traveled on the sand the entire time, right? Except for like this little piece right here, but that's not that big of a deal. So sand is 3 feet per second. So we're going to take that 588 and we're going to divide it by 3. And that gives me 196.19, or you could say 2. Okay, so who's going to get there first? Bow. And he used the direct route, right? That's the distance formula, and we're going to actually talk about midpoint formula. Distance formula is very similar to this whole a squared plus b squared business. It's just written in a different form. So go ahead and look at the paper that you should have picked up earlier. If you didn't grab it, make sure that you grab it. I'm going to hit you with like 2 formulas that are going to be important. So on the top of your paper, I would write this down. So midpoint formula is going to be x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Notice how I put a comma right here in between, because midpoint is actually finding a location. Yes, baby. Cool. Okay, distance formula is going to be the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, take a moment, write those 2 formulas down because they're going to be important. So midpoint formula, that's finding the middle point of a line. So right here, we have 2 different points. Can you tell me what this point right here is? What point is that? Okay, that's this one, yeah. And then what is this point? 2 2, comma 2. Does everybody understand how to recognize those points? Everybody knows how to read a graph. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to label them with x1, y1, x2, y2. The farthest one to the left is always going to be your x1, y1. Because you read left to right, that's going to be your first one. So we got x1, y1, and x2, y2. So all we've done so far is we've said, here's our 2 points, we labeled them. Now we're going to plug into that formula for midpoint. So we're going to say x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So x1 is -5, plus x2 is 2. We're going to divide it by 2. And then y1 is -4, plus y2 is 2, divided by 2. All we're going to do now is simplify. So -5 plus 2 is -3. -3 divided by 2 is -3 halves. Okay, or if you don't like fractions, -1.5. -4 plus 2 is -2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. Let me give you a second to catch up. So now we're going to kind of draw the dot that we just came up with. So this is -1.5 comma -1. So we're going to find that spot. -1.5 comma -1. Is that red dot halfway between those 2 black dots? Yes. So that is the midpoint. We okay on that? It's not rocket science. Y'all can do it. Hardest part is like labeling. Okay, so I got 3 halves comma -7 halves, or in decimal form, 1.5 comma -3.5. And that's right here. So boom, works. Always putting where that midpoint is a good way to kind of check yourself on your negatives, to make sure that you didn't mess that up. Okay, go ahead and try number 3, and go ahead and try number 4. Okay, so on this one, you labeled this as x1, y1, and x2, y2. What were these numbers? We had -2, 3, and we had 4, 1, right? So when we plug this in, we're going to get -2 plus 4 divided by 2, and 3 plus 1 divided by 2. So you should have gotten 1 comma 2. Is that what you got? Which is right there. Cool. Okay, number 4 was a little tricky, and the reason why is because it's like, all right, which one goes first? It doesn't really matter since they're on the same line, because look, you could figure out where the midpoint is, right? What's in between 0 and -2? And so it's probably going to be that point right there. However, if we want to do this using the formula, then we have 4 comma 0 and 4 comma -2. Okay, when we plug that in, we're going to get 4 plus 4 divided by 2, and 0 plus -2 divided by 2. What's up, babe? You're going to put it on the door. Yep. All right, so 4 plus 4 gives me 8 divided by 2, which is 4. And 0 plus -2 is -2, divided by 2 is -1. And that's exactly what we just found. Again, you could probably visualize this, but just in case you got that formula. All right, these next couple of problems are the exact same thing. The only difference is now they've given you the points. Okay, so you don't have to locate them on a graph. So this is just your x1, y1. This is your x2, y2. Let's try one of these and then we'll move on. So try number 5. Okay, so let's look at number 5. Okay, again, you're going to label those x1, y1, x2, y2, and then plug in. So -1 plus 6 divided by 2, and -8 plus -4 divided by 2. So -1 plus 6 is 5. 5 divided by 2 is 5 halves, or you can say 2.5. And then -8 plus -4 is -12. -12 divided by 2 is -6. Is that what you got?
Yeah.
Again, 2.5 comma -6 is okay too. Okay, this is what I think they're going to ask on your final though, because they like to make these like a lot harder than they really need to be. Look at number 9. It says an endpoint -4, -5, 4, and the midpoint is -6, 4. They don't give you 2 points. They give you the endpoint and the midpoint. So now you have to find the other point. Okay, so always pay attention to what are they asking you for? They're asking you to find the other endpoint. Okay, so this is x1, y1, and then this is your solution. So let's set up that equation. We got -5 plus, we don't know the other point, divided by 2, comma 4 plus y2 divided by 2. And we're going to set that equal to -6, 4. So everybody see what I did? So now we're going to solve for x2 and y2. Okay, so just looking at our x values. So we're looking at this and this. What we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom, multiply -6, so that's going to give me -12, right? So -6 times 2 is -12. And we're going to set that equal to -5 plus x2. Now we're going to solve for x2. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. And that's going to give me -7 equals x2. Does that work in this equation? Yeah. So then we did that right. Let's try the y2, solving for y2. So we're going to take the denominator, multiply it times this number out here. So 2 times 4 is 8. So we've got 4 plus y2 equals 8. If we subtract 4, we're going to get y2 equals 4. So our final answer is going to be -7, 4. Again, I know that's a little tricky. You really have to pay attention to what are they asking you for and how to set it up. Can you try number 10? Okay, so when you set this up, this is your x1, this is your x2. And what you're going to do is you're going to say 3 plus x2 divided by 2. We're going to set that equal to this -6. And then you're going to take the other stuff and put that into the formula. So -3 plus y2 divided by 2 equals -5. Does that help? Maybe a little bit. So this is all your x's. This is all your y's. And then now you solve for x and y. So we multiply by 2. And that's going to give me 3 plus x2 equals -12. And then subtract 3. So that would give me x2 equals -15. Can you solve for y2? So if I'm solving for this, I'm going to multiply by 2. I'll write this over here. That's a little messy. So it's going to give me -3 plus y2. 2 times -5 is going to give me -10. I'm solving for y2, so I'm going to add 3. And so that's going to give me y2 equals -7. So my final answer is going to be -15, -7. You have to write it as an ordered pair, or it doesn't have, you're not doing the right answer. All right, can you try 11 and 12? Can you try 11 and 12? Okay, so endpoint is 6, 0. So we got 6 plus x2 divided by 2. We're going to set that equal to 1. And then 0 plus y2 divided by 2 equals 10. So we're going to multiply 2 times 1. That's going to give me 6 plus x2 equals 2. Stop. We're going to subtract 6, and that's going to give me x squared minus, x2 minus. So we're going to multiply by 2 on the bottom, and that's going to give me 0 plus y2 equals 20. So 0 plus y2 is just going to give me y2, and that's equal to 20. So our final answer is going to be -4, 20. Questions on that? Again, if you're not sure, you could actually draw this out on Desmos and see that the midpoint is at 1, 10. Okay. Over here, same thing is going to be set up. So we got -9 plus x2 divided by 2 equals -4. -8 plus y2 divided by 2 equals -5. I'm going to multiply by 2. And that's going to give me -9 plus x sub 2 equals -8. I'm going to add 9. And so that's going to be x2 equals 1. I'm going to multiply by 2 over here. That's going to be -8 plus y2 equals -10. I'm going to add 8. And y2 equals -2. So our final answer is going to be 1, -2. You should have written down the distance formula, but here it is just as a refresher. The square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, again, I would probably always write that down before you start any of your distance problems. Okay, so on 13, we are going to label first. We're always going to label this point. So right here, we have the point 2, 4, which is going to be our x1, y1. And down here, we have 2, -1. That's going to be our x2, y2. Everybody good so far? All we're going to do is plug in into our equation. So we're going to rewrite the equation, substituting those values in. So we're going to write the square root. We're going to write a parentheses. We're going to say 2 minus 2 squared plus y2, which is -1, minus 4 squared. So all I did was I rewrote the formula with plugged in numbers. Guys. Okay. Now, on your mastery check, remember, you're only allowed to use yellow calculator. You're going to type every parentheses that you see. I would type it exactly like that. If you don't, then you're going to get the wrong answer. Okay. You could also type this into Desmos. I would suggest, if you want to do well on your mastery check on Friday, I would practice typing this into a yellow calculator right now. Okay. So I'm going to do it on Desmos because I obviously don't have a yellow calculator at my desk. But when you type this into Desmos, you also want to use all of those parentheses. So we got 2 minus 2 squared. And we're staying underneath the radical. -1 minus 4 squared. And what number did that give me? That gave me 5. And think about it this way. Since this is a vertical line, look at the distance. Is that 5 units away? Yeah. Yes. I think the midpoint formula is on your formula sheet. I'll give it to you for your mastery check, but I don't know about the EOC. I got to look that up. Okay, can you try number 14? Can you try number 14? Oh, we're going to label this. We got 2, 2, and then we have 5, -5. Here's your x1, here's your y1, here's your x2, here's your y2. Let's go ahead and plug those in. So we got the square root of 5 minus 2 squared plus -5 plus 2. I'm sorry, minus 2. JK. Minus 2 squared. So this is going to give me 9 plus 49. And so that's going to give me the square root of 58. And that's going to be about 7.61. Okay. Now this one, you really can't see exactly what that distance is. You just got to make sure that you actually like plugged in numbers correctly. Because it's a diagonal line instead of like a horizontal or vertical line. Okay. Are there any questions on this? No questions. Okay, really the hardest part is labeling and then plugging in. That's the hardest part. If you accidentally like flop these, as in like you put a 2 with this being your x, your y2 or whatever, you switch these up, that's going to create a problem. You're going to get the wrong answer. Okay, that's the only way you can really mess this up. Can you take a moment and try 15, 17, and 19? So 15, 17, and 19. So you're doing these 3 problems. Okay, and then we're going to check our work. So 15, I got 5. 17, I got about 5.83. If you round it a little different, that's okay. Or if you kept it in radical form, that's all right too. Okay. On 19, I got 16.27, or you could have gotten it in radical form, and that would have been square root of 265. That's okay. You're normally going to see these probably in radical form, and they might be simplified form. But you can put them in decimal form if you need to.